Welcome, football fans. Welcome to Musings from Arledge, WeAreSC.com. It's easy to get caught up in the competitiveness. It's easy to get caught up in the rivalries, and sometimes it's fun just to make fun of your opponents. Certainly that's something we do a lot of here. But this is the Christmas season. And that means that this is a time of joy and peace, a time of togetherness, a time to bring people together instead of tearing them apart. It's a season for gift giving. And so I want to lend a helping hand to some of our college football rivals. I want to do what I can to make their lives better. Just consider this a gift from me and from WeAreSC.com. Now, I want to say up front, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have all the answers. Here's what I do have: a big heart and access to Google. And so I've gone and I've done some Google searches to see what might be out there that might be able to help some of our college football opponents. And I pulled some things together, and I hope you agree with me that what we have here could be life-changing for some of these programs and their fans. So let's get started, see if we can make a difference. I want to start with our friends in Eugene from the University of Oregon. I found a couple of articles here that I think could really be transformational for that crew. Let's start with this one: Delusion, a step-by-step guide how to deal with it. Now listen, I think this is really important because delusional fantasies are dangerous, and it's not the way to get ahead in life. And I know that Oregon struggles with this sort of thing, and I'm not trying to make light of it. It's a serious problem. Listen, what is delusion? Definition of delusion is an individual's fixed false belief that usually conflicts with reality. So let's talk for a second, Oregon. You're not in the SEC. You're not the SEC of the West. None of that makes any sense. I know you like to say it. I know you think it sounds like a good slogan. I know you think you can use it to trick high school kids into coming and playing for your program. But you're not the SEC of the West. You played an SEC team this year, and when you did, it looked like a matchup between a baby seal and orca. Wasn't good, wasn't pretty. So I think we need to come to terms with the fact that you are what you are. And listen, what you are isn't bad. I mean, for almost all of your history, you guys were terrible. I mean, absolutely bottom of the barrel for decades and decades and decades. And I can understand that must have taken a toll on you. So when Uncle Phil came in and decided to spend a whole lot of money to make you guys an elite program, I know you got excited. And you were right to get excited. He built a lot of cool stuff, some buildings and a bunch of new uniforms. And it's really cool what you guys have done, going from an absolute nobody to a second-rate power. There is nothing wrong with that, okay? But at the same time, I want you to understand that you guys are not a blue blood. You're not Ohio State. You're not Oklahoma. You're not Notre Dame. You're not USC. You're Oregon. 10 years from now, your two main in-conference rivals are likely to be Oregon State and North Dakota State. Now, don't sleep on those guys. That's a good football program. You guys are going to struggle with them some, all right? But that's where you're likely headed. So I want to see if we can solve this problem, this delusion problem, and get you guys back on the right track. So here's the thing. How many types of delusion are there? I think the one that we need to be focused on is delusion of grandeur. That's the fourth one listed. Delusion of grandeur. In this kind of delusion, a person may believe they are more significant or influential than they are. Usually they imagine they have extravagant wealth, exceptional talent, or in a special relationship with someone prominent. Like, for example, you might think that you're one of USC's main rivals, or you might think that you're an SEC power. That's the sort of thing we're talking about here. What is the treatment of delusion? The treatment usually includes the use of both medication and psychotherapy. Now listen, I can't offer you either one of those things. I can't prescribe medication, not yet. And I can't offer you any psychotherapy, but what I can do is I can try to point you the right direction. And I think you guys can make some phone calls, and by this time next year, I think we can be celebrating maybe a full recovery. While we're at it, one other thing, I think this would help. Here's an article on dressing and mental health. Signs your wardrobe is signaling emotional distress. If you have an unhealthy relationship with your wardrobe, seek help. Listen, I think maybe you guys have an unhealthy relationship with your wardrobe. You have more costume changes than Elton John did in his major concerts. You treat clothes the way maybe the housewives of whatever city they happen to be in these days might, or the Kardashians. It's a little bit embarrassing. Most programs need a home uniform and an away uniform. Some have an alternate. Notre Dame sometimes wears those green jerseys. These days they like to lose in it. So, some teams have 3 or 4, but nobody has 180. And nobody has 180 uniforms that don't even match their school colors. It doesn't make sense. Since your wardrobe can be a symptom of emotional distress, you may need to seek help via a mental health professional. Generally speaking, an unhealthy relationship with clothes typically signals deeper-seated emotional issues that must be addressed first, says the psychologist here. So listen, Oregon, I know we've had our differences in the past, but I'd like to see if you can seek the help you need. And maybe, just maybe, after a few sessions and some drugs, after a little bit of time thinking about it, after some time going through all the uniform collections and throwing away the ones that don't really make sense, maybe you guys will be in a position where you're healthy and you recognize who you are and what you are. And these delusions of grandeur will disappear. Good luck to you, Ducks. Okay, next on our list, our friends from Westwood, the UCLA Bruins. Here's an article that might be helpful. 4 ways to deal with inferiority complex. Now, I think you guys are probably arguing you don't have an inferiority complex, and maybe you're right, because listen, inferiority complex is a set of beliefs that we hold about ourselves, where we always assign less value to ourselves in comparison to others. Maybe you guys don't have a psychological problem. Maybe you compare yourself to others, like the USC football program, and just find that you're wanting significantly. And if that's what's going on, I don't mean to impute mental health problems to you. Maybe you don't have an inferiority complex, and maybe it doesn't matter. But I still wonder sometimes, because I think it leads to some of the issues you guys have, like never winning anything. I mean, going decade after decade after decade and not even winning a Rose Bowl, that doesn't make sense. A famous university in LA, you should be able to, by accident, occasionally go. So I think there might be something here you want to look at. And, there are some ideas here that you can use. I mean, here's a good one. How to overcome inferiority complex. Identify the root cause. I think we need to look into what the root cause is. I think the root cause is that you guys wear those uniforms that are embarrassing and you lose almost all the time. I think that's what it is. But maybe there's a different root cause and you guys can get to the bottom of it and start to deal with it. That's what I'd like to see you do. Here's some other ideas. Positive self-talk. Listen to this. A more positive attitude towards ourselves, where instead of criticizing ourselves harshly, we tell ourselves that I am enough, I am capable, and I can do it. That will help us to build up our confidence. That's something to think about. Maybe you guys can get together and get in a circle and tell each other that you're better. You can say stuff like I'm enough and I am capable. Maybe that will help. I think it's worth a try. How about this one? Self-acceptance. Nobody's perfect. We need to be more accepting of our weaknesses and imperfections. We need to understand that it's okay to make mistakes. We are only human. I think this is right. And look, ultimately, while you guys underperform year after year after year and have been since I was in elementary school, I think it is okay to accept who you are, accept that you're not perfect, and maybe you're never going to be any better than you are. And if that's the case, it's time to learn to live with it. And stop making up signs about city champions when you win the crosstown rivalry. Stuff like that. That's embarrassing stuff. We don't want to do that anymore. We need to stop stealing parking spaces from people who need them because they're actually disabled. We need to stop doing stuff like that. And I have faith that you guys can pull this off. So to the Bruins, good luck to you guys. Here's one for Texas A&M and Miami. This is an article about whether or not you can buy love and acceptance. It turns out that probably you can't. Now, I know you guys are trying to do that. That you've been on this tear where you give out lots and lots and lots of money, and that's how you land high school recruits that like lots and lots and lots of money, despite the fact that they probably don't really want to play for your school because it's a grease fire. So I know this is what you guys are trying to do. It may not work. And I want you to understand that. I think Texas A&M fans are starting to realize it. And there's this other article I saw in Vox that I think may be relevant, especially to A&M, but probably to Miami next year. Listen to this. I paid $47 an hour for someone to be my friend. Is this a cure for the loneliness epidemic? Now, I know A&M, I know you guys didn't think you were renting a friend. By the way, the website that people use for this is, in fact, Rent a Friend. I know you guys don't think you're renting friends, but it turns out you are. All that money you spent putting together the best recruiting class in history seems to have just rented you guys friends for about a year because they're all jumping overboard. They're all entering the transfer portal. Nobody wants to stick around and keep going 5 and 7. So what you guys are doing right now is renting friends. Miami, you are too. You don't know it yet, but these kids are going to leave once they figure out that they got their money and Cristobal is a great recruiter and a lousy coach. They're going to take off. Here's what I want you to understand. This Vox article that I'm looking at, it turns out that trying to rent friends that way isn't all that effective, and it's kind of sad. So I want you guys to stop doing that. I want you guys to be honest with yourselves. I want you to be honest with recruits. A&M, I want you to level with these kids, and I want you to tell them, listen, if you come here, you're not going to win very much because we haven't won very much since R.C. Slocum left decades ago. We have all these resources. We're going to squander them, and you're going to get embarrassed frequently. But if you're okay with that, come on in. We have cool yell leaders, and we have a bonfire thing we do, and there are lots of other perks to being here. Just level with them. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the recruits. Stop trying to rent people. It's not good. It's unhealthy. Finally, let's turn to the most difficult case of all. Our friends in Norman, Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Sooners. Listen, I know you guys have had a rough time of it. I know that Lincoln Riley broke your hearts. I know that Caleb Williams broke your hearts. And I know you've been having a difficult time dealing with that and dealing with your inability to tackle anybody. And it hurts to go 6 and 6. I know that's the worst record you guys have had in a long, long time, and it's embarrassing and it hurts. And you guys spend most of your time drunk and crying, and I know that. But there's things we can do. There are options. You don't have to stay like you are. And believe me, you don't want to stay like you are. Everybody's looking at you thinking, please change. And so I want to talk a little bit about it. Here's an article that might help. 16 expert-approved ways to get over a breakup. That sounds good, don't you think? Listen to this opening line. Nothing plunges your self-esteem into a pit of despair quite like a bad breakup. I think you guys know that that's true. And so what we need to do is we need to find a way to overcome that. And here's some ideas. One is rebuild your self-esteem. The article says if your partner initiated the breakup, it's perfectly normal to start picking apart your physical appearance and personality traits, questioning what's wrong with you that would cause someone to fall out of love. Guys, I'm quite sure that you spent a lot of the last year picking apart your physical appearance and personality traits. And to be honest, there's a lot there to pick apart. So I can understand why you do that. But that's not what you want to do. That's not the solution. It's not a long-term fix. Focus on your positive qualities, it says. To remind yourself how very worthy of love you are, get out a pen and paper or your notes app and put it down in black and white. Because you can make a list of all the reasons that you guys are good. Kind of like Stuart Smalley on that old Saturday Night Live thing. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. You guys can do that kind of thing. And listen, here it says, if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas, and let's be honest, you probably are. Tap your closest friends and family who would jump at the chance to share all the reasons they feel fortunate to have you in their lives. This is good stuff. I think this is helpful. Feel your feelings. You can live with the feelings for a while. You guys have been doing that for about a year, but I don't think you want to do it forever. Number 16, consider therapy. Again, I think this is a good idea. But I don't want to leave it at that because there are some specific things that you need to work on, and I think we have some articles here that will help. Here's one. How to stop hating someone. Listen to this. Sometimes people remind us of our insecurities or reduce us to feeling powerless and impotent. You guys probably feel impotent. Maybe you should. The point is, the people who get under your skin are in your life for a reason. Are you ready to dig down, figure out, and solve the reason? I think that we should do that, OU fans. I think we should do it right now. So this is a lengthy article, and I don't know if you have somebody there who can read it to you, but I'm going to go through and just hit some highlights because I think there's a lot here that's interesting. I mean, listen to this. Hatred can come from a feeling of impotence, from feeling like you are not able to do anything, that you're stuck, that your hands are tied. You may have feelings of hopelessness. Listen. If I were an OU fan and I were watching OU play this past year, I would feel hopeless and impotent too. It was sad. I turned on some of your games and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So I just turned it off like everybody else. I mean, I saw you play against that Texas team. They had 4 losses. They weren't great. They beat you guys 49-0. I'd feel hopeless too. That's sad. That's really sad. So I think that if you're having these feelings, it makes sense. We can do some stuff about this. Oh, here's a good one. I think this is the best suggestion yet. Listen to this. Hate does not have to hold you forever. Hate always gives you an opt-out. It's good news, yes? What is the feeling that led to hate? Is it fear, powerlessness, betrayal, disappointment, injustice? Identify that feeling and take that feeling on, and the hate will fade. Okay, this is good. Now listen, this is very important. Look at the person who created the most significant amount of hate for you recently and say, "You are awesome. Thank you. Thank you for showing me where I lost my power." This is a good idea, OU fans, so I want you to do this with me. Are you ready? Okay? Repeat after me. "You are awesome, Lincoln Riley. Thank you, Lincoln Riley. Thank you for showing me where I lost my power." Okay, did you get that? Do you feel better? I'm sure you do. Okay, so that's good. And here's another one. This also has some good ideas. It's also called How to Get Over Hating Someone. And look, here's a suggestion that I really love. First of all, they do say you should probably seek treatment. If you're spending a disproportionate amount of time thinking about it, if you're having difficulty focusing on other things, or if you're considering violence, please seek treatment immediately. So some of you guys probably need to call a mental health professional right now. But others, with a lesser case of Lincoln Riley hate, you might be able to work this out some other ways. They offer 3 suggestions. I want to focus on the third one because I think it's fantastic. Listen to this. Consider engaging in an intentional act of kindness, either toward the person or with the person in mind, such as buying a hated coworker a cup of coffee or making a donation to a cause that your former spouse supports. This is a really good idea. I want to give you guys a website that might help. Okay, get a pen. Let me know when you're ready. It's usctrojans.com/sports/Trojan Athletic Fund. If you go to that website, what you can do is you can make a donation to USC Athletics. And I think if you do that, you're going to find when you're done that this hate that's been eating up your insides, that's been making you really the horrible person you guys have all been for the last year, I think you'll see that it's going to start to go away. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel better about your lives and your family. You won't feel better about your team. They're still terrible. But you'll feel better about these other things. And at the end of it, at the end of making this donation, I think that you won't hate Lincoln Riley near as much anymore. And that's good. Because Lincoln Riley is doing his thing. He's winning 11 games this year, just like he almost always did with you guys. He doesn't have time to worry about you. And you guys don't have time to worry about him. You won 6 games. You need to get better. Stop focusing on him. Focus on yourselves. Let's turn that gaze inward. Let's get better, all right? So listen, it's a Christmas season. I hope this was helpful. I make fun of you guys a lot, all of you, and for good reason. But I want you to know I really do love you. Deep down inside, the Ducks and the Bruins and the Sooners and all the rest, you really do mean something to me. You make our lives better. Even though you don't try to. I mean, even though you affirmatively try to make them worse, you make our lives better. So thank you to you. Merry Christmas, and I hope this helped.